Alrighty, who's ready for a big day? Yes? Sounds like you're just ready for a little day. Who's ready for a big day? All right. All right, so my volume meter is like, all right, that works now. Fantastic, because what we're going to do today is really some big stuff. We're going to get our hands on your business. So, your business. So you ready to get your hands on your business? Yes. Fantastic, because we've been focusing all yesterday on the alignment between you and your business. So you could step forward as a messenger for your message. So you could be in alignment with the business that you're building. You could find your flow, your path of least resistance and highest reward by working with your natural design and finding the business that aligns with what you really want, right? So now we're more ready for the next steps. And the next steps are the Action Master Key, and this is the no-hype way to know exactly what to do and when to do it, and your business. And learning this key has been so huge for so many of my students because it instantly feels the relief of knowing what to do and when to do it. Because how many of you feel like you've been in a constant state of overwhelm since making the choice to build a business? Raise your hand high. Yeah. Because there's so much out there that it feels that you could be focusing on at any given time. So what do you actually focus on? Because your time, it's limited. Your energy is limited, right? So how do you actually understand what to do that's going to move the needle and be a worthwhile investment of time? And what not to do? And that's the big question here. So when you learn the Action Master Key, you can really let go of a lot of the things that you thought you should be doing. And one of the worst things to your business, your health, your happiness, is the word should. It's all the things that you think you should be doing. So we're going to be letting go of a lot of shoulds so you can step into what you could be doing that will actually be supportive to you right now. So how's that sound? Yes? Wonderful. And then we're going to go to the Money Master Key. And the Money Master Key is how you inspire, and that's the key word, remember, inspire, more people to invest more money with you more often to make a bigger difference in their lives. And this is a radically different take than the standard sales funnel model that you may have learned before or heard other people teaching about or even experienced yourself as you opted in for something. It's a model that really puts your customers first and allows you to really understand the journey that you want to take them on from the very first offer that you make, a free offer, all the way through to some of your highest ticket programs. So what is that journey? We're going to look at that journey. And we're going to also figure out what's the first step for you to create, what offer you can create next to add $50,000 of revenue to your business in the next 12 months. Sounds good? Yes. And then we'll take a step back and look at, well, where does that particular offer fit into this overarching journey? And that is the Money Master Key. But before we get there, it's important to give some time and space because yesterday was a big day. Would you agree that yesterday was a big day? And we're going to need the microphones brought up to the front. So we need some time and space for integration. And one of my friends, Justin Livingston, says that the gold is in the integration. And what that means is the time and the space to actually process what were some of the biggest takeaways and ahas and realizations for you. And to bring them into the space and into the room because that might trigger something in somebody else who's like, oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, that was a big deal. So we want to bring a few of those in. This is not time for coaching or pitching your business. This is simply sharing a breakthrough or an aha. Maybe something that happened in the room or outside of the room in the cocktail party. Maybe something as your head was hitting the pillow at night. Or even my favorite, which is morning shower realizations, right? Anybody else super creative in the shower? Yeah, me too. I actually have these things called Aqua Notes. And they're notepads that work in the shower. You could be writing at the bottom of the bathtub, and it's really cool. So a lot of time I have so many ideas flooding through me that I start taking notes in the shower, right? So let's also get a few people who have not really spoken yet, who haven't shared their voices in the room. Start there. And I'd love to hear your breakthroughs, your insights, your realizations. And yeah. Is everyone shy this morning all of a sudden? I get it. Is it like a coffee thing? Caffeine not kicking in yet? Okay. All right.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I had the opportunity to spend some time last night with some wonderful women, and I had a beautiful realization yesterday, just talking about becoming and being. I had this realization that there's a big energy. And when you have big energy and big visions, you have to build yourself up to the capacity to hold that energy. And I realized that I had to practice it, that it felt so overwhelming that I need to, on a daily basis, practice maintaining, holding, and building my capacity to allow that energy to flow in. So it's very powerful.
That's a beautiful takeaway. So love bomb. Boom. Yeah. So I've actually studied something called embodied leadership, which is actually about increasing the capacity of your body to hold for more energy. So for me to be in a room like this and to actually be able to hold the energy of the room, because I can feel so much. So I can see when someone's confused. I can see when someone's in their own process, you know. I can see when someone's loving me up, and I appreciate the people in the room who are loving me up, and I can see when people are hating on me too. And, and so I have to be able to see all of that happening on the stage and still stay grounded in what I'm here to share and not let it impact me or my message, right? And that takes time. And I think one of the biggest reasons people sometimes default to a particular set point in terms of abundance and impact is just not increasing their own capacity to handle more energy. Does that make sense? Yes. And it's a practice every day of, okay, increasing a little more, a little bit more. And we actually call this phenomenon in Live Your Message the dip. So what happens is you're in this room and you're filled with energy. How many of you are feeling a little bit more inspired and hopeful, maybe a bit scared, excited? Raise your hand that you're feeling a lot of energy right now. Now, what often happens when you go home is that after an expansion, a lot of times there's a contraction. And we call that the dip. So it's very easy after a big expansion like this to hit a dip unless you have a plan for Monday morning. And we'll be talking about that more tomorrow, creating that plan for Monday morning. But it's really a practice to expand that capacity. And it's powerful when you do, because then you know you can handle anything. Because a lot of times what happens so often for so many people is they hit a roadblock and they crumble because they haven't built up that resilience. And it's the physical resilience, it's the mental resilience, it's the emotional resilience to realize that these problems that you're facing, in the grand scheme of things, are very small problems, right? And they're much smaller than your potential for impact, for abundance, for all of that. Yes?
What was the name of the modality you practiced?
It wasn't a specific modality. It's embodied leadership practices. So there's a lot of just embodiment practices. And yeah, it wasn't a specific modality. Yeah. A lot.
Getting there, a lot.
A lot.
There. You did.
Okay.
That was the first time. She's been struggling with my name all year. Yesterday I had that problem with niching.
Can you speak into the mic?
I need some height.
Yeah.
Yesterday I had a problem with niching down, so it wasn't in the morning shower, it was in my meditation. I actually popped my eyes open and quickly wrote it down. But I suddenly realized what someone had said to me about a year and a half ago, which is that I deal with choice. It's the moment of choice. And you had put up that thing about 20% of people are chronic procrastinators and don't want to make decision. And I thought, I'm dealing with a moment of choice, of helping people to actually embody in the moment of choice and make. So that was really helpful.
That helps a lot. Can you see that already gives a context in a situation?
Yes.
And then you can define a bunch of choice moments.
Absolutely, and it's what I've been doing the whole time, and people have been loving it, but I haven't known where to put my focus, and I call it the sacred moment.
Yeah.
So now I know.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Boom. All right, over here.
Yesterday with the ripping up of the limitations.
And can you speak a little closer to the mic? So
Sure.
A little trick on the mic is it's kind of like, and I won't make you lick it, but it's kind of like an ice cream cone. So you want to get close to ice cream cone distance to it.
Is that better?
Yeah.
So yesterday with ripping up the limitations, it really felt like a sense of expansion and embodiment, and that it was logically something I knew and understood, but I could feel it through my body change, and it was really a relief and felt very good.
Absolutely. Thanks. Love bomb. Boom. Okay. And if you're not already at a mic, this is the total number of shares we can do this morning, so go ahead.
Up until yesterday, I had been speaking to something that wasn't in my client's language and wasn't what they were saying to themselves. But I thought it was something they should be.
Anyone else? Anyone else do that? Give people what you think they should need? Yeah.
And so I'm so excited that I finally realized that, and that what I have come up with in doing my, women, when I did that,
Yeah.
and I didn't do it till this morning. I had to sleep on it and woke up going, oh my God, I'm brilliant.
That's a good way to wake up. I think everyone wants to wake up that way, right? Yeah.
So,
All right.
and it's a completely different come from.
Yeah.
Because I've always known that what I'm good at is when I can talk to someone for 3 minutes and I know what their gift is.
Yeah.
And it just, I'm so excited now.
Love bomb. Boom. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Etienne Charlin.
Yeah.
So, yesterday I had a really good session with Matthew, so thanks to Matthew. One thing that I had been struggling a lot with is how to present the work that I do to people. And because if I say, oh, I do energy healing or spiritual work, then people, oh, so you're a coach, you're a healer, and then they put in a box that really does not fit the work that I'm doing. So what I came to realize is that I need to describe my work in a way that conveys what is really special about the work that does not fit into those containers, which is really about increasing their own spiritual power through increasing their connection to God. So I need to talk more about that connection to God. And just this morning, well, I met a lot of Canadians in the morning, and that really showed that very clearly. Or met someone and also, so what do you do? And then talking about energy healing stuff. Oh, okay, so it's New Age stuff, and she's a Christian, and actually, I think that the Christians have a more accurate description of how it actually works than the New Age people. And what the other guy said is that the kind of energy that I'm bringing is more of an overarching energy that preceded the second coming of the Christ. So, and that really showed that. So, it's really bring that awareness of how to.
Yes.
Convey
So it
that.
sounds like you're realizing just different ways to convey the unique value proposition. So you're not getting that P-touch machine we talked about, the label maker, where people are sticking a label on you and then basically telling you to shove off because it's not interesting to them. So you're kind of landing the differentiation. Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay.
Love bomb.
Thank you.
Boom. Okay.
Sorry, Etienne, I was the bad Canadian who put that label on him this morning.
Are there really any bad Canadians, you know?
I know.
Aren't Canadians the nicest people ever?
We are.
Yeah. They're like Americans, but they're the nicer, friendlier, better Americans, you know? Yes.
I'm Shireen, and something you said yesterday, Marisa, just struck me. And you talked about being in limbo from the time you change to the new person that you're going to be. And I was giving myself so much hassle for being in that limbo because I thought, what is this?
Yeah.
So thank you so much for normalizing that, because I just thought I was the only one that, haven't I changed? Shouldn't I be this new person?
Yeah.
So thank you.
Beautiful. Love bomb. Boom. You know, so much of the entrepreneurial journey is acceptance. You know, it's accepting your starting point. It's accepting your unique pace. It's accepting the unfolding of your life's design and understanding that I was talking about fast food coaching this morning, that you can't always do fast food coaching. If you've got a question this big, it's not going to fit into a 5 or 15-minute spot. You need sometimes deeper or longer engagement for that. And sometimes, it's really interesting, years ago I was part of a mastermind where the mastermind gave me my intention for a year. And as a control freak, I was like, oh no, you're not giving me my intention for this one. But it was interesting to have other people reflect where they thought that I needed to grow. And the first intention they gave me is that Marisa's experiencing risking it all. And within, I think, 1 month, I had left my career behind. I had left a relationship of 10 years. And it was all the things that were limiting me from taking this journey into entrepreneurialism. So at the very next event, they said, well, I think we need to change the intention now, because clearly you have already risked it all. And the next intention they gave me is that Marisa is experiencing the design of her life unfold. Marisa is experiencing the design of her life unfold. And that was maybe 8 years ago. And I'm still experiencing the design of my life unfold. I think I'm going to be living into this intention for the rest of my life. And when you think about that, just too, those words of experiencing the unfolding. And so this journey is experiencing and unfolding. And sometimes when you get impatient, or you try to rush, or you lose hope, or you try to fit it into a box, or say it has to happen in this 15-minute spot, or whatever, you actually are clinging so tightly to the outcome that you're not giving it space to emerge and unfold. Has it ever happened where you want something so badly that the wanting is actually preventing it from happening? Yeah. And sometimes it's the letting go and the surrender that allows it to emerge. Yeah. All right here.
Hi, my name is Tia Chipman. I want to tie into what you said. I liked how you talked about unfolding. I think a lot of our growth comes in the world of unfolding, unknown, uncomfortable. One of the things that I liked from yesterday was watching people in their journeys. You had showed some great examples, Nelson Mandela, the Greta, the students in Portuguese. Like we see these people once they've reached their level. And so I think we think of ourselves like we're just normal, we're just these little people. Yeah. Who are we to be good or great? And what I really came back to was the so what. And what I took away from the so what, if we take a minute each and we think about like, what is it that we're passionate about? What is it that we want to do to help people? What is it that we have to offer? I know for myself, one of the things that I'm passionate about is suicide prevention. It is the number 2 leading cause of death for children ages 11 to 17. So when we think about our so what, I think part of what we can look at that is a question. So what if I stay small and I don't help people? What if I keep my voice small? So what? So what happens to those people? So what are the outcomes if I stay small? And when we look at that, I think that can propel us to say, I don't want someone else to lose a child. I don't want someone else to lose a sister or a friend. I don't want someone else to suffer. And so I'm going to go past that so what, and I'm going to go past my fear, and I'm going to go into all these worlds of unknown and uncomfortable and unfolding. I love that.
Beautiful. Thank you.
To reach my journey.
Love bomb. Boom. All right. Hi.
Hello. So I did cry in the shower. Cry in the shower today. But it was thinking about all of us that because of our past, it takes us on this journey to help others. And people that don't do self-development, and that's who we need to help teach to do self-development so that they can move forward too. So.
Thank you. Love bomb. Boom. Elizabeth.
Good morning. Yeah. And just taking a step back from yesterday and bringing it all together, I think the biggest takeaway that I had was watching everyone drop into the presence of their own internal conflicts and really seeing how when you draw presence to that, you can drop into a space of awareness. And when you're aware of it, you can actually have that clarity. And when you get that clarity, there's just this instantaneous inspired action. And I saw everyone around me experiencing that and then leveling up in their next vision of success. And that, Marisa, is the most amazing experience you could provide for somebody. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Is anyone feeling that a little bit of expansion right now, or you feel like maybe there's a little more possible even than you even thought before you entered this room? Anyone? Yeah? All right. Excellent. And that's a constant journey to continue that expansion and that allowing of even more. So it's so often we say we want more. We want more abundance. We want more impact. We want more clients. We want more leads. We want more exposure. And then we get it, and we're like, whoa, what did I just ask for? What did I just ask for, right? And part of it's just like, okay, be careful what you ask for, yes. And then when you get it, be like, wow, I'm grateful. And I actually had to catch myself in the preparation for this event because it's a lot. to be up here on stage for 3 days, and it's a lot to prepare, and it's a lot of work, and I have to keep reminding myself, Marisa, remember what a joy and what an honor it is, and remember to have fun, because being able to sit up here in front of 350 people, it's a joy and it's an honor that so many people would love, to always come back to that. So as I get in the weeds of the preparation, to remember that. And really at the end of the day, the fact that every single one of us in the room has the choice to build our business is a remarkable gift. So it's so easy to get hung up on what you don't have. Oh, I'm confused. I don't have crystal clarity yet. I'm not exactly sure what my niche is yet, whatever it is. But just the fact that we have this choice, because so many people in the world do not have this choice, is a massive, massive gift. And so I would call these high-class problems, right? And so it's good to remind yourself that I'm having high-class problems right now, because they can feel very, very real. You know, oh no, I have too many clients. Oh no, I have too much choice in my life. I think I have too much possibility and potential. I can't believe I have to choose something. Couldn't I have as many niches as I have pairs of shoes? You know? So just remind yourself. Right. So it's always good to remind yourself of what a high-class problem it is to have, to be able to live your potential, to live your message, to live your purpose in the world, to translate what you do on a day-to-day basis into what you love, right? To become more of yourself through your work and through your livelihood. I mean, what a freaking gift that is. Would you agree? Yes. Yeah. So when we get this heavy, like, energy, you know, because it feels sometimes like constipation when you have all this stuff inside of you, and like you've been trying for a long time, but it's like, oh, you know, another day is gonna go by, and oh, you know. But then just laugh at yourself and allow it to be, because really, you know, high-class problem. You with me? All right. So just even watch your facial expression, because yesterday may have stretched you some, and today will continue to stretch you, and tomorrow will continue to stretch you. So are you ready to be stretched in a spirit of joy and possibility? And in a spirit of gratitude. Yes. So just remember, when it gets hard, if you find yourself doing the constipation thing, you know, relax your face, smile, breathe a little bit, and like, I'm so grateful to have this high-class problem right now. All right, you ready to go? Okay, let's do it. Okay, let's do the action master key. Everyone want the master key to unlock some major action in your business? Yes? All right, let's do it. And I call this an earn while you learn strategy, because it's all about earning now rather than creating everything that you need to earn in the future. How many of you have spent a very long time creating everything that you need for the earning to happen someday in the future? Raise your hand. Well, what if the earning could happen right now, because you're using strategies that are appropriate to you right now at your current stage of business growth, so you're earning as you learn, and you're preparing to earn and learn even more. So a lot of times people wait for the outcome someday in the future, but why not have that outcome today, right now? Because you could spend your entire life preparing and really never get to the destination. Is that making sense? So you want to have that destination and be in the constant process of arriving. That feels a lot better, doesn't it? Because that gets you into this upward spiral of growth and of the validation that you need to start seeing results right away, so then you have confidence to continue moving forward and seeing more results. And what happens so often in the online business training space is that people get a little bit excited. They're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I have access to all these tools and tactics and technologies, and it's like a kid in a candy store, and they could do so many different things. They would all help to build your business one day in the future. And so many people teach these one-size-fits-all magic bullet solutions. They're usually teaching a very specific strategy like TikTok or automated evergreen webinars or Instagram or Facebook ad funnels, right? And they're saying that all you need to do is this one thing, and bada bing, bada boom, you're going to have a successful online business. It's your secret to world domination. But we saw yesterday how quickly those boomtown strategies can go bust. And if you focus your entire business success on this one little tactic, a lot of times that tactic is no longer going to be relevant in 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, or later. So that's why we want to focus on these master keys that are continuing to be relevant for years. I mean, it's not a new thing to build a business. While the internet may be relatively new in the grand scheme of things, building businesses are not. So you want to build a business online in the same way that you would build a business offline with a few extra tactics and strategies. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so many people try to bypass that because they go into, oh my gosh, the internet, it's the land of potential and possibility. And it is. So much is possible there, but you can't bypass the stages of actually building a real business. Is that making sense? Yeah. So the other thing that happens is, people don't recognize where they're starting from. Like if you were to try to give this kid a driver's license today, they're not going to be able to drive a car, right? So if you're just getting started in business, and then you're like, yes, hit me up with this automated evergreen Facebook ad funnel, right? You're probably not going to be successful. Does that make sense? So even if that strategy is working for someone at the current stage of business growth, that doesn't necessarily it will work for you if you're not at the same stage of business growth that they're in. So what happens, though, is people might be selling programs and courses and strategies, but they're not taking the time to qualify you and ask you, where are you in your business right now? And is this actually going to help you right now? So what's the key word there? Right now. Yeah. Because the truth is that all of those strategies may help you one day. One day you might want to become an Instagram influencer. One day you may want to build an automated evergreen Facebook ad funnel. But is that the next best step for you today to start earning while you learn? And that's the difference, right? That's the difference. So a lot of times, these trainers and these mentors, they're not asking things like, have you defined your message to money pathway, which we're going to work on this afternoon, so you can reliably turn leads into customers and repeat customers. Because if you can't do that, then all the traffic generation strategies in the world aren't going to help you because you're trying to solve a problem of sales and conversion with more traffic. But if you haven't solved the sales and conversion problem first, the traffic won't matter. Is this making sense? Yes. Yeah, for sure. And they're not asking you things like, do you have a website that converts reliably and consistently to capture leads? Specifically, a proven offer that works for that particular kind of traffic source, because not all kinds of offers work for all kinds of traffic. Is this making sense? So you have to match the right strategy at the right time. Instead, they're teaching strategies that are working for them right now at the current stage of business growth that they're in, but they're not actually the strategies that got them to where they are right now. Make sense? Thank you. So I feel what happens is that people often develop amnesia when they start talking about this stuff and they forget what it took to get them to where they are today. So I'm not necessarily always teaching you exactly what I'm doing right now in this moment if it's not going to be relevant to you, because I'm more concerned about your result than showing off how much I know. Does that make sense? Well, thank you. And the other reason this is so important is that a lot of times these strategies seem really freaking sexy, right? And they're so tempting. And so it's so hard to resist the temptation to be like, oh, those are great ideas for those kinds of people in that particular situation. Let me just put this in my idea parking lot to come back to later. So the thing is that your business is not one size fits all. And you can't necessarily follow one-size-fits-all strategies without a deep understanding of where you are and where you want to go and which strategies are going to help you get there. And so the dirty secret in this online business and training industry is that for the traditional programs that most people are delivering, less than 10% of their students will do anything with what they learn, less than 10%. And the reason why this is the case is that a lot of times they're presenting information that may not be relevant to the stage of business growth that somebody is currently in. The other reason is there's no customized support or any kind of one-on-one mentorship to really apply those strategies to that situation. Because would you agree? It's one thing to have good information. It's another thing to implement and apply that in your particular business until you see the result. Am I right? And third is that those programs aren't experimentified to work with your natural chemistry of motivation and the way that you naturally learn. So it feels like it's really hard to gain that momentum and gain that progress. They don't know about the experience formula, the experience escalation framework that I've been developing to get radically more students across the finish line to mission accomplished. And because of that, my guess is that many of you may have bought programs or courses or trainings in the past, and let me know if this has ever happened to you, that seemed like a really good strategy or an idea that was working for the person teaching it, but no matter how hard you tried, you just could not get a result. So raise your hand high if that happened to you. Raise your hand high. All right, and it's nobody's fault. It's just a mismatch between the strategy and what it is that you need right now. And I hear this all the time with our students. And this is a student that came through EPM, and I'm getting these notes so often, and that's kind of why I'm sort of on a soapbox here about this, because I think it's so important for everyone in this room to understand so you don't get swept up in some of that gold rush stuff. So Nicole says, at the beginning of the year, I decided I wanted to work from home. I purchased a course about digital marketing. It was like the freaking Library of Congress hit my inbox. I didn't make it past the first module. I thought maybe I'm just not good at online learning. Anyone else ever feel that way? And out of desperation, I purchased another course that included live coaching. And like a good student, I attended all the sessions, but I didn't implement. It was like there were holes in the training we received, and we were left hanging at the end of 6 weeks. My classmates and I haven't heard from the business experts since. Enter the Experience Product Masterclass. I thought, okay, I'll try this one more time. I had never heard of Marisa Murgatroyd or an Experience Product or Live Your Message, but more than anything in the whole world, I wanted to make this thing work. I mean, what I'm about to say with all my heart, what I received as an EPM student is easily worth 10 times the price. Thank you. But so much more important than money is that I received legitimate, practical, actionable steps and tons of support from real people who care. I now have a plan, no longer feel stuck, and no longer feel alone as a result of joining this program. And thank you. And when I'm reading the comments to this, like all these other people were agreeing. Sue was agreeing, saying, unfortunately, Nicole, many of us can relate to what we went for before EPM. Luckily, all of us found something about EPM that resonated, so we took one more chance, we signed up, and we ended up making great breakthroughs, as well as finding ourselves here in this wonderful, supportive community. And another person, agree entirely. I won't even tell you how much money I've invested in courses that didn't work before they throw a bunch of information at you and expect you to succeed. So I see this all the time, and I'm bringing this up because I know that I'm not teaching to a blank slate, that a lot of you have had past experiences, and you may have some misconceptions, and you may have a little bit of heartbreak that have gone along with it. And if you're just finding me for the first time now, and you actually haven't done all that other stuff, I'm really glad you're in this room now. And really, people say this about all of our programs. One of my mentorship students graduated, and she said, I've been in a few other masterminds since mentorship, and while I've learned some stuff, there's truly nothing like what you offer. So what I want you to understand is that I am not okay with leaving 90% of my students behind. I'm just not okay with that. It's why I'm obsessed. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm literally obsessed with how to get my students results. And I'm constantly iterating and tweaking and seeing how can we do an even better job and get even more students across the finish line to mission accomplished. So what I wanted to do is a quick exercise before we really begin and go into the action master key, because I know that there might be a lot of stuck kind of energy in this room, a lot of disappointing, frustrating experiences, a lot of failures that we're trying to build on top of. And that's like trying to build a house on shifting sand. So I wanted to do a quick exercise to shake off all those disappointing and all those bad experiences so we can all return to a state of collective possibility. How does that sound? You willing to do that? You're open to doing that? Yeah, because here's the thing, we just kind of need to release some of that energy. I'm talking about the elephant in the room here, and we actually do have an elephant in the room, right, that we brought for you. So we're going to do something. It's actually called shaking meditation, and it's actually about just shaking out all the stuck energy and releasing it from your body and just being like, okay, shaking out all of those programs, all of those things that you tried, all of the failures in your business, all the things that didn't work, all the disappointments, and say, that's gone, so you can just focus on what's going to work now. How does that sound? And this is not about trying to be a beautiful dancer and elegant. This is about just like get the stuff out, okay? And so I'm going to play a song that I love called Everybody Shake, and I'm going to invite you to stand up, and we're all just going to shake it out. before you learn something new and we return to a state of possibility. All right? So let's do it. And even if it feels uncomfortable, I invite you to shake. It really feels very, very good and very liberating. Here we go. Shake your arms, shake your legs, shake your booty, shake it all out. Shake more, shake harder. Feels good. Shake for it furiously. Shake, shake. Yeah, feels good. Shake. Everybody shake. All right. How do you feel? Feel good? Yeah. Do you feel a little bit of space opening up for more possibility? All right. All right, so are we getting the slides back up? So here's the thing about the Action Master Key. Is that the Action Master Key is about making things happen now, not trying to get everything perfect before you begin. Get all your different ducks in a row. How many of you have been trying to do that? Get all your ducks in a row and everything perfect before you begin. Raise your hand high. Look around, look around. It's almost the entire room. Because I know you want this to go well. You want to put a good face forward to the world, I understand. But the longer you wait and the longer you delay, the more you're really depriving people of your life-changing work. Can you see that? And most people don't expect perfection. They actually expect presence. Wow. You see the difference? So I've messed some things up so far at this event, and it's okay, but I'm present with what's happening. And as long as you're in communication, people accept that. If you try to deny it, not so much. But if you're present and available, people will accept that. So here's what we're going to do. Instead of waiting to have all your ducks in a row, the truth is you do not need all these ducks, right? Let's go. Get rid of these freaking ducks, right? These ducks are not going to help you. You do not need all these. Whoops. You only need one duck. Okay? So repeat after me. I only need one duck. You only need one duck to get started, okay? So here's our duck. All right, so are you ready to release having all your ducks in a row? Yes! Great. Because the model that I'm teaching you is called the 4 stages of business growth, and it's about doing just what you need to do right now to move forward and make progress in your business so you can earn while you learn, start taking action now, and start getting results now that's appropriate to your current stage of business growth, to your starting point. Because you've got to use where you are to get where you want to go. Does that make sense? Yes. Yeah. So go ahead and turn to page 19 and 20 in your workbook. And this one sheet of paper is going to save you a lot of time and a lot of heartache and a lot of headache in your business by helping you focus on just the milestones that you need to achieve and realize right now to get to the next stage of business growth. So there's milestones, and there's also certain mindsets and habits that you need to adopt. So I'm going to be giving you time at the end of the session to really look through the sheet of paper and choose some of the next step actions that you're going to take once you identify your current stage of business growth and where you want to be 12 months from now. Because here's the thing. unless you've learned the art of teleportation, and there may be a few of you here in the room, I'm not discounting that, we've got a pretty expansive room, you do have to use where you are to get where you want to go. And you can't necessarily get to your destination without traveling from here to there. So often, people try to go from zero to superhero overnight. And the truth is, unless you've got a large bank account, like endless, bottomless resources, or you were born a marketing genius, or you happen to have a very high-profile relationship of someone who's going to just put you in front of all the right people with no additional effort on your behalf, most people can't go from zero to superhero overnight. They can't go from zero to $1 million overnight. Is this making sense? And so often people have these mismatched expectations of what's possible. So I think Kyle Cease said that in the example yesterday. What if no one's broken your heart, they've only broken your expectations? So a lot of times, it's our expectations that haven't been met. But your expectations may not actually have been fully aligned with where you are and where you're going. So we're going to be realigning those expectations and really giving you a clear roadmap to progress from where you are to where you want to go, so you do not have to leave your success to luck or chance. All right? Because trial and error is the most expensive investment that you can make in your business. And I don't want you to have to feel like you're just trying a bunch of things and you're hoping for something that's going to work. So the thing that you need to understand is that there are a few universal steps that every single entrepreneur, every single business needs to take without fail. Because you cannot get to the top of the staircase, for the most part, without climbing every step, and yet the market is full of people trying to sell you these magic flying suits to get to the top overnight. Who's been sold, or someone's tried to sell you on a magic flying suit? Raise your hand if that's ever happened to you, right? But the truth is that if the magic flying suits existed, every one of us in the room would already be millionaires. Every single one of you would be a millionaire already. Now, I'm not saying that magic doesn't exist and that you can't build $1 million business. All I'm saying is that there are a few essential steps to put in place before you get to that level. Because once you climb these steps, once you get to the top of that platform, then you can step off and fly. And once you learn, basically you've been learning the clarity master key and the action master key, which is some of those core steps. And then once you learn the money master key and the tribe master key, it's going to feel like you strap on your jetpack, okay? It's just about really building things in sequence. So the process of ascending from one stage of business growth to the next, it's called ascension. Who wants to ascend in your business? Excellent. So that's a really important process. You ascend from one stage to the next, rather than to leapfrog over multiple stages to the end. And the important thing to understand is that every single one of these stages of business growth has a very specific business model attached to it. So there's a very specific way for you to earn money during that stage of business growth. And in addition to the different stages of business growth and the business models, there's also mindsets to adopt at each and every stage. So just like you have an ascension plan for your business, you also want to have an ascension plan for yourself, because you can only grow your business as much as you've grown yourself. And here's the thing. A tall tree needs deep root systems to support it. Am I right? Because what happens if you try to build this huge business, this gigantic tree, but you have no roots, you have no foundation? What's going to happen the first time there's a storm? It's going to fall over, right? So you've got to understand, and we had a couple shares of people who are getting impatient with themselves, is that if you've had a big spurt of growth, you may need to do some root planting right after that spurt of growth. So it's not always a trajectory that's like that. Does that make sense? So you may go through a trajectory that's like that, but there's nothing wrong, because you've been, growing the tree, and then you've been planting roots to sustain that growth and allow for the next stage of growth. So the process of building your business is about simultaneously growing the tree and planting the roots. Is this making sense? Okay. Because you've got to use what you have right here, right now, to grow your business, basically, and yourself as fast as possible. Okay? There's no magic bullet solutions, but the truth is you can progress relatively fast when you just do the right steps in the right order. And the thing is that most people do is they try to wait until everything is perfect. And waiting until everything is perfect and having all your ducks in a row is why people give up. And remember, we only need what? We only need one duck. So I'm going to be introducing you to the actual stages of business growth. We've got the blue sky stage, the call me stage, the list build stage, and the authority stage. And don't worry, I'm going to be telling you exactly what each of these stages is and what to expect and what to do at each stage in just a moment. So you can be on the lookout for what stage you're currently in and where you want to go. But I wanted to frame this before I start diving into the blue sky stage, that even if you are at a more advanced stage, like you're more at the call me or the authority or the list build stage, I recommend listening to every single stage, because what happens so often is that even my more advanced students, like David and Linda here, who are mentorship students, is that they came to me when they had a list build business. And they learned this model, and they realized that they had completely bypassed the call me stage of business growth, so they were leaving a lot of money on the table. And within 2 weeks of joining our mentorship program, they implemented the call me stage strategies. They went backwards, implemented it, and they had 45% growth that month. And they were able to sustain that growth consistently because it was just a key foundational step that they had bypassed by listening to a lot of the other business trainers. Is this making sense? Okay? So you want to look out for that too. So even if you're more advanced, listen to all the stages along the way, because you may have missed some vital stuff. So as I go through these stages, I want you to focus on three things. The first is to identify what stage you're in right now, and then to choose the stage you want to be in 12 months from now, okay? Where you want to see your growth in about 12 months. And what I found is it's possible to progress about one stage of business growth a year when you do the things that are appropriate to that year and that stage. And finally, I want you to choose the stage that you ultimately want to grow into based on your strengths, your goals, and your aspirations, okay? And this is important because not everybody is going to want to go all the way up to authority, though many of you will. So you want to choose your ultimate stage of business growth that naturally suits your design, because a lot of people want an authority business, but they're not willing to do the work that an authority business requires. Is that making sense? So if you're not willing to do that work, then you kind of got to get real with yourself and say, okay, well, maybe an authority business is not meant for me. So the thing that you need to understand is that you are unique, and you've got a unique business with unique strengths and challenges and needs. And the process of finding your market of one business is to work with your natural strengths and with your challenges as well, and really develop a business that you can sustain, not just for a year, but for multiple years into the future. Is this making sense? Because what happens so often is people try to build a business out of alignment with their gifts, like what we saw on stage yesterday with the wealth dynamics, and it's just exhausting. It feels like they're in constant struggle. And has anyone here felt like you've been in constant struggle with your business? You feel exhausted in the process? And that's a sure sign that so beyond the stages of business growth, you also have to recognize your gifts and to work with your natural design. So you find the things even within each stage that are going to work for you. Is this making sense? Okay. Because it's so important, and what we teach people to do at Live Your Message is to build a business that expresses who you are, okay? You want to build a business that expresses who you are. And the reason being is that's A, how you stand out from the noise of over 2 billion websites, right? But it's also how business building feels a lot more fun, enjoyable, and sustainable. Right? It's how you get to do something where you feel like you're in total flow every single day. Who wants to feel that way? Yeah. When I'm up here and when I'm behind the computer creating, I just feel like I'm in flow, and it's so much freaking fun. You know? One of our students, a lot, and she was saying that she just felt this year, over the last year, that she just built her playground that she gets to play in for, the next multiple years of her life. And I thought that was so beautiful, like that you get to build your playground here. So we really want you to say no to a business that drains and exhausts you. Say no to a business that's out of alignment and incongruent with you and your natural design, because that business isn't going to last, and if it does, it's not going to be as successful as you want it to be, or it's not going to be fulfilling and sustainable for you, and sooner or later, you're probably just going to want to step away from that business. And I've actually watched a lot of my colleagues who were big names in the last few years step away from their businesses because they just got exhausted. And that's not what you want. So we're really here to help you build a business that aligns with you, not just a business where you can make a quick buck any way possible. If that's what you want, this is not the right place for you. And if you want that business that drains and exhausts you, that's not the right place for you either, right? So we're building a business aligned with you and that matches your stage of business growth. So let's go into these actual stages of business growth, starting with the blue sky stage. Sound like a plan? Great. Well, the blue sky stage of business growth is where the sky is the limit and anything is possible, and it's such an exciting stage to be in because it feels like you can do anything and you can be anything. But because of that, it's also a frustrating stage to be in because if you remember, so many people are trying to shine like the sun rather than like a laser, so their light gets lost. So the challenge at this stage is to focus all of this possibility into a clear focus, a clear niche. Make sense? And so the blue sky stage is where you may have an idea or a message, or at least a desire, but you're not crystal clear on what it is. You haven't cracked the code on how to express and package what you do in a way that brings in consistent revenue, and that's the key word here, consistent. It's not making money every few months. It's being able to consistently make money. And you don't have huge revenue yet. Maybe you haven't made any money at all. So you're making anywhere from $0 to $2,500 a month consistently. So let's get a sense of who here is in the blue sky stage of business growth. Raise your hand high if you're in the blue sky stage. Okay, so good amount of the room, maybe 40, 50% of the room. Fantastic. So the milestones that you want to achieve in the blue sky stage is to gain clarity around who you serve and the unique value you provide them. Now, this can take some time. It's not an instant solution, but you really want to get that clarity. And you want to test and fine-tune your offers before you invest resources to create one-to-many products, websites, and marketing. So this stage is much more about gaining clarity than it is about creating lasting business assets. Does that make sense? Yes. So you want to be testing and iterating your way to awesome rather than trying to go out the door and create so much stuff that you're just going to change later. It's one of the reasons why our mentorship programs have a 0 to hero phase, which is all about testing and optimization alongside your audience to really dial that in and fine-tune that before you really go into building all the different assets. So I think so many people, they believe that being in business means having a website, having an LLC, having a bank account, having all of these things. But those things come about through a business, but the first thing you need to have is that clarity. Make sense? All right, and you want to get into conversations with your prospects to understand their problems and the results that they want. You cannot guess what people want. You can't tell them what they should want. You have to listen to what they actually want and match your offers to that. Making sense? Yes. All right, and alongside of those milestones, there are very specific mindsets that are important to develop at the blue sky stage so you can ascend yourself alongside of your business and progress to the call me stage. So one of the core milestones is habits, the habits that you're forming. So one of the key habits to form at the blue sky stage of business growth is simply taking charge of your time and your attention and focusing on it on what matters most to you. How many of you have trouble with this? Like you give away your time, you lose a lot of time. If you spend time on your business, it's not focused time on the things that really matter. Yeah. So that's why this is a key kind of mindset at this stage, is to develop that habit of focus. And next, your ecosystem mindset here is to simply create a distraction and clutter-free space in which you can work. Now, some of you may be used to going into an office where you've got a space that you go to work. Now, the same is in your business. You want a space that you go to work, that's your workspace. Does that make sense? And then that's the signal that every single time you open the door and cross into that space, that's where work is going to happen. Make sense? You shut the door, you set hours, you work those hours. And it's funny because there's an interesting paradox that a lot of people go into business to find freedom. But a lot of times freedom is found through discipline and through structure. And it's not necessarily a knee-jerk freedom. Does that make sense? Yes. And that's one of the things that you've got to learn as an entrepreneur, that even though you go into business for freedom, there's multiple levels of freedom. The deeper freedom is being able to be on purpose and align with what you really want every single day. And sometimes that means, having the discipline to work at specific times to create that deeper level of freedom, which is doing what you truly want to be doing with your life, which may involve doing something that you're resisting for a few hours. Does that make sense? So which freedom do you want? You want the freedom to just piss off and do whatever you want whenever? You want the freedom to live a life exactly on your terms where you're living your deepest, work in the world, yeah? All right, so the next mindset is leadership. And this is where you embrace your inherent worth, your unique value, and your superpower. So a lot of times in the early stages of business, you are your worst enemy. It's the gremlins inside of your brain doubting and criticizing and trying to pull you down. So you've got to say that no matter what, you are qualified. Your life experience has qualified you to do this work in the world. And you can get better and better at your craft, but you don't need to go and get 10 more certifications before you get started. Right? So many people fall into that trap because it's not about you and how many degrees or certifications you have. It's about your ability to get a result for another human being. So all you really need to do is work on your ability to get someone else a result. And you don't even need to be the world's top expert in a field to get someone a result. And many of those world's top experts have no idea how to get someone a result. Does that make sense? Because to facilitate, to coach, to mentor, to teach, to guide, to heal, those are different skill sets than just knowledge up here. Make sense? So that's what you're cultivating. And then you need support. You need to surround yourself with positive people who believe in you and they actually understand what you're trying to do. And the other thing is you want to learn from someone who has experience with this stage. And the vast majority of business training, mentorship, and coaching do not even focus on the blue sky stage. They're all targeted to list build and authority. So if you're in blue sky, you need to be guided by someone who understands the blue sky stage specifically. Make sense? So the two biggest mistakes that you can make at blue sky, and who wants to know what you should avoid? Yeah, raise your hand. Raise your hand. It's the greatest learning sometimes is what not to do as well. Okay, the very biggest mistake that I see is people quit their day job too soon, or they pull the plug on existing revenue streams before they're able to replace that. And what that does is it creates a very short runway where you've got like 1 month, 2 months, 3 months to figure it out, and you've got to make decisions based out of desperation. And then every time you're having an enrollment conversation or trying to market and sell, you're like, I really need this person to say yes, because if this person doesn't say yes, I can't pay my bills. And that energetic just doesn't feel so good, right? And that can send people running in the other direction. So sometimes just hold on to that job a little bit longer or get a side gig or hustle that's going to create that stability that you need to focus on the business and have enough spaciousness that you're just not operating out of desperation. Because good businesses usually don't come out of desperation. Does that make sense? But you'll end up making bad choices that have you just chasing the money in the fastest way possible versus, yes, earning while you learn, but making good decisions along the way to build the foundation for your future success. Now, the other big mistake people make is investing in websites and one-to-many marketing too soon. They're like, no one's going to take me seriously if I don't have a website. They're going to Google me online. Well, that's not true. I have friends who've got million-dollar call-me businesses that don't have websites. They are really what they're going to pay attention to is your level of presence and what you have to say. Is that making sense? If someone wants more information, create just a single PDF with information on it for them. It doesn't have to be this big website. So many people put so many barriers between them and just getting started in a business that do not need to exist. It's just based on your notion of what you think that you do need to have versus what you actually do. Make sense? Okay, so during blue sky, the important thing to understand is that your business is in flux. It's changing all the time, and that's a good thing. So out of my mentorship students, how many of you changed your niche 1 or more times during the year? Raise your hand. All right, yeah, a lot of our students change their niche multiple times, and it's okay. There's nothing wrong with that because you're getting closer and closer to the heart of what you really want to do and who you want to do it for. And so you want to stay open-minded to the possibilities that are emerging to you, because sometimes your niche chooses you as much as you choose it. Does that make sense? Like you're chasing this one niche that you really have your heart set on it, that all the signs and people are asking you for the same thing that's not the thing that you're asking them to buy. Has that ever happened to anyone? And then you're like, no, I'm just not going to listen to these 10 people who are telling me the same thing, right? So sometimes it's that process of listening and allowing. Someone's like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what happened to me. Yes. So the blue sky investments, the things that you actually really want to invest in at the blue sky stage are, first of all, your time, your energy, and your elbow grease. So the biggest things you're investing in is yourself, your own time, your own energy, your own elbow grease, and really taking that massive, consistent action to get the feedback that you need to get clear, gain momentum, and just move forward with confidence. So my mom is from Thailand. You probably know that by now. And in Thailand, most people in the middle class have housekeepers. And they grow up with housekeepers. So when she married my dad and she came to the US, she had no idea how to cook or clean or do anything related to housekeeping. And she went over to her neighbor's house, and it was spotless. And she asked the neighbor, "How did you get your house so spotless?" And the neighbor said, "I used some elbow grease." And she said, "Okay." And so she went to the grocery store the next day, and she says, "Where can I find the elbow grease?" And they laughed at her, and they said, "Well, you can't buy elbow grease. It's putting a little elbow action into it. That's how you clean your house." And so often, people try to buy the elbow grease, and you cannot. You can't hire people to do your push-ups for you. So you've got to remember that. The biggest investment is your own time, your own energy, your own elbow grease at this stage, and you cannot bypass that. But you also have to understand that you might not have infinite time, especially if you have a job and other responsibilities. So you have to understand how to focus the few hours that you do have to work on your business on the things that are really going to matter. And the other thing that people do at this stage is to believe their business has to fit inside of a canon, to have a limited belief or notion on what their business is and what they need to do, and then try to fit themselves into it. Has anyone ever had that happen, where you think you have to do business in a certain way? Raise your hand high. Raise your hand high. Let me see. Yeah, and so it's also easy to have limited conceptions of what's possible for you. And so what I find is there's two things. One thing is what you really want, and the other thing is what you believe you can achieve. So I feel like so many people base their business on what they believe they can achieve versus what it is that they really want. And the truth is that you can achieve what you really want, even if you don't think you can right now, when you learn the right strategies to do it. And you have the discipline and the follow-through and the commitment to just show up every day and make it happen. Does that make sense? So you don't want to limit your business potential based on what you think you can achieve at your current stage of growth and development. Make sense? All right, so like I said, I've given you the sheet of paper that's got all the different milestones and mindsets on it, and we're going to give you a little bit of time at the end to choose some of them. But let's continue progressing through the stages of business growth. So you leave Blue Sky and you progress into Call Me when you define your value and you start getting paid consistently at least $2,500 a month, right? That's when you leave Blue Sky. And I want to quickly check in with my Blue Sky people. Is there anyone here in the room who's in Blue Sky and you're kind of kicking yourself and you think you should be further along than you are right now? Raise your hand. And almost everyone. Well, I'd love to take, 1 or 2 shares on each mic, just 1 or 2 on each mic, if you want to share something about that, about how you're feeling in relation to being in Blue Sky, because I think it might help a lot of other people too. Because so often, the more we, criticize ourselves for not being where we want to be, the less we're accepting our current stage of business growth. And because we're not accepting that, we're not progressing. Does that make sense? It's kind of a vicious cycle. So go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ray. So when I joined mentorship, I had this vision of what I thought I wanted my business to be. And what I quickly realized is that I could achieve so much more than I ever thought possible. And I realized that I was still playing small. And so I'm way further along than I ever have been in any business. I've actually made money, not a lot, but I made money. But it was my idea that I made money off of. So don't sell yourself short. Don't go into mentorship thinking that you're going to make a ton of money, because you might not. But you might have more clarity than you ever had before. And that's because of Marisa and her teachings, because she's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Like, amazing.
Love bomb.
I have no words.
Boom. Boom. Well, yeah, so, thank you. So is there something you wanted to share about being in Blue Sky and just kind of kicking yourself about maybe not being further along yet?
Well, yes, I've been working on my business for about 5 years. It's been an amazing journey. I have learned a lot. And I feel in some ways that some of my work has gone into the Call Me stage, but my income is definitely in the Blue Sky stage.
Yeah.
And I really want to get them both in sync. And I've realized that there's a lot of I've been constantly improving. EPM has been a massive increase in my learning curve, but I realize now I really need to go back and connect with people. It used to be like, okay, I'm doing this by email because if I spend, a half hour talking to this person and I'm not going to make any money.
Yeah.
So let's just do this by email, get this done. And I've now realized the importance I need to put at my stage, that this is my stage of the business, and
Yeah.
I need to forget about my hourly rate, and I need to talk to my potential customers, so that I can understand what they want, because I know there's a particular category where people say, yes, I definitely want to sign up. And I say, great, it costs you this much, this is what you're going to learn, and I never hear from them again. And it's the first stage of my business. If I can get them, I can funnel them through. So this has been really helpful for me to realize that I am in this stage, and even though some of my business is in this stage, I've got to go back and I've got to talk to people.
Yep, you can't skip steps and rush through it, so allowing that, yes.
Exactly.
Thank you.
And this has made me realize.
Boom.
Thank you.
All right, and Susan over here.
Hi. I just feel bad that I've been doing this amazing work for like 10 plus years. I have a list of over 500 people. And my income still isn't very good, even though I'm like really good at what I do, and amazing things happen to the few people who come. And I did a workshop in Florida. It was an amazing workshop. 2 people came.
Yeah.
So I'm not clear, and it's embarrassing to stand up here and say this. Like, I thought I was, during EPM, at the next level, and I'm really still in blue sky, so that's where I am.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Love bomb. Boom. Is there anyone else in a similar situation where you've been doing this for a while and you're like, oh my gosh, I should be further along? Well, a lot of times, yeah, it's really real. And a lot of times that feeling can actually prevent you from making progress. And I think instead to be like, well, why am I where I am? It's not for lack of talent. It's not for lack of capability. Perhaps you've been following models that you did not learn here this weekend that did not actually support you in getting where you want to go. So sometimes when you shift the models, you shift the way you're doing things, you can get new results. Is that making sense? Yeah, go ahead, Robert. Mm-hmm.
So I have the opposite problem that you described. You said that the first problem is don't quit your day job.
Yes.
Well, my day job really doesn't leave me enough time to fully invest myself in developing this other business. And my day job is exhausting me. It's a business I've owned for over 25 years, and I'm actively seeking to transition out of it.
Yeah.
And that hasn't happened.
So what I recommend in that scenario, anyone else in that scenario where you have a full job and it doesn't leave you much time, is I recommend creating a schedule for your business growth. No, you can't compare yourself to someone who's doing their business full time, and also create an exit plan. So your exit plan is, okay, over the next 12 months, I'm gonna get myself ready to leave my job. In order for me to be able to leave my job, this is what I need to see. I need to see that I can make X amount of money per month, consistently for at least 3 months, right? But then say, okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna invest, say, 2 hours a day. And I'm going to invest my best hours. I'm going to shift my schedule a little bit. So instead of giving my work my best hours, I'm going to spend the very first 2 hours of every single day from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. or whatever that happens to be on my business. And every single night, before I go to bed, I'm going to figure out what I'm going to focus on that next morning for my business. And that's how you've got to do it. Right? You need to have that clear transition plan. You need to be realistic where, okay, this is all the time I have available, so I need to make this time count. Is it making sense? Yeah, that's super important because otherwise it just can go like years basically where you're just juggling these 2 things and you're not doing anything very well. But if you give yourself that time frame, I'm going to give myself a year to figure it out, and this is what I'm going to do. I'm not just going to leave figuring it out up in the air. This is the structure I'm going to create in order to figure it out. Make sense? So I know at this stage it's so easy to never really get started. And I always like to ask, is it scarier to stay stuck with your dreams unrealized, or is it scarier to take the leap and commit to getting started right away living your success story? So I know for many people, it is scarier to stay stuck, and yet if you look at the actions you're actually taking, you're taking the actions of staying stuck. Am I right? And you're not actually taking the leap, so perhaps it is scarier for you to take the leap. So actually recognize that and understand that it's okay. The reason being is that when you step into the work of doing what you're really here to do in the world, it feels scarier than just doing things that don't matter to you in getting a job, because it feels so personal. So if you succeed, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm sharing myself with the world. And if you fail, it's like, oh my gosh, what I'm really here to do is not worthwhile. Does that make sense? And so a lot of times people assume that fear is a message to yourself that you're not on the right track, but a lot of times fear is a signal that you are on the right track and you're going into a domain where you're feeling stretched and outside of your comfort zone. So you've got to just listen to that fear and recognize it for what it is. It's like, wow, I'm stretching myself here. I'm doing something outside of my comfort zone. And just feel it, accept it, and move forward anyway. Because there's no shame in feeling fear or doubt. And every single superhero has a backstory of having some form of kryptonite or some kind of weird superpower that they're a little bit embarrassed about. So you've just got to understand that. And the more gifted you are, the more talented you are, the more it probably has been hard for you to fit into the world, right? Or your family or whatever it happens to be. And that just creates more shame and doubt about what it is that you were born to do. Make sense? And I used to, for the longest time, I never fit in. I was never the cool person in high school or even in college or anything like that. I didn't fit in. And it took me like 35 years to realize I wasn't meant to fit in. I was meant to blaze a new path forward. Yes. And I just had to accept that in myself because the only way out is through. Yeah. So let's talk about the call me stage of business growth next. So in the call me stage, you've more or less understand what you do and who you serve. I say more or less because this is constantly deepening and evolving and emerging. It's not a decision that you create one time and then you do that for the rest of your lives. Can you see that? As you change and as the world changes and as the market changes and your audience changes and technology changes, what you do is going to shift and evolve, which is why I focus so much on making get-started choices versus forever choices, because there's no such thing as a forever choice anymore anyway. Make sense? And you've gained a little more momentum at this stage. You've started to bring in money more consistently, but not as much as you desire. Okay? And I call this the call me stage because you get new clients by getting on the phone or speaking to prospects one-on-one. And so many entrepreneurs, they try to build an online business and skip this particular stage because this stage sounds so boring when you hear about all these ways to make automated passive income while you sleep, right? Why would you want to do this when you could do all this stuff while you're sleeping and just have money landing in your bank account without having to talk to a soul? You could be sending out emails. You could be setting up funnels. You could be doing all this technological stuff and never have to do that. And to be honest, the big email lists and the big joint venture partners, it's all super exciting. And I'm very glad that I have access to all of that right now. Make sense? It's great to have it now that I have it, and there's a huge payoff. But I didn't start there. And most people who are truly successful don't start there either. They start in call me before they progress into list build and progress into authority. And as I always like to say, before you can make money while you sleep, first you've got to be able to make money while what? While you're awake. Yes. So in the call me stage, there's two different phases of call me. In early call me, you're really focused on working with people one-on-one, and your goal is to talk to as many people as possible, get one-on-one clients, and bring in consistent revenue. Then in late call me, you're starting to want to leverage your time. You're like, I can't just be serving people one-on-one for the rest of my life. There's got to be something else. And this is where you shift the focus to leveraging your time and scaling your business through small group offerings a lot of times. And this is what Matthew Turton did. And you met Matthew Turton. He introduced me on stage. So he had a 20-year-old business basically in the learning disabilities space. And they've been serving people one-on-one for years. And they had a very highly customized approach to work exactly with each student and customer's learning disability and their capacity. And they delivered incredible services. The problem is they were operating at this tiny, less than 10% profit margin. So if they lost one client, they could barely make ends meet. And so they thought about for many, many years adding groups, but they didn't understand how they could while maintaining their quality of care. And that was super duper important to them. So we ultimately worked with them to figure out, well, how can they make the leap to late call me? So they could kind of break out of this income ceiling and have a little bit more profitability. And so we actually created group programs that were specialized around very specific learning disabilities. So instead of creating a one-size-fits-all program, we just created, say, the ADD program. And then worked with people who had ADD, for example. And that first program quickly filled, and it added $20,000 in revenue in the first 6 months, and $60,000 a year ever since. But the very cool thing is that program has a 73.5% profit margin compared to the 10% profit margin on the one-on-one side of the business. So just based on that, they could offer this program at half the cost of his regular programs, serve underserved kids and needy kids that they couldn't serve before, while making way more profitability. And because of that, they were able to give the entire staff a 30% raise. So simply making this shift made a huge difference in his business. And it also served the community better because people who couldn't afford the one-on-one could now afford him. So the thing you've got to understand is that before you can scale to one-to-many selling, you need to become truly great at enrolling people one-on-one, because this is an essential skill set. If you think about it, if you can't convince one person to buy from you, do you really think 100 people are going to buy? Probably not. So you've got to learn how to sell that one person. So the next stage is Call Me, which is creating sustainable income by really claiming your niche and your value, okay? So that's really what you want to do here. It's like the sustainability, it's the consistency, it's getting out of feast or famine marketing mode and really being able to consistently replicate those results week in, week out, month in, month out. Is that making sense? That's when you have a real business. Most anyone can sell something once, and it could be fluke or luck, right? And you could sell something twice, but when you start to be able to sell it over and over and over again, you can say you're in business. Make sense? You want to really get good at packaging your offers and mastering enrollment conversations, the ability to sell your offers, and you want to start some form of regular marketing that brings people in reliably, okay? You've got to consistently do this marketing. A lot of times you want to be on the phone, like having 2 to 5 phone calls every single week at this stage. No, you want your phone to be like a hot place to be, okay? So Call Me is really good stage of business growth for coaches, for consultants, creatives, healers, doctors, and other professionals who make the majority of their income through one-on-one advice or services. And most people start with a Call Me business to gain all that vital intelligence and experience and insight into their audience and what they do for them before scaling to list build and authority. And I wanted to give you an example of this. So this is Experiencify has made $15,797 in monthly reoccurring revenue. That's MRR in the last 30 days since we launched. Now, the reason we've been able to do this, and this is a software company. So what I wanted you to show is that even in list build, traditionally list build business models like software or physical products, you still want to get on the phone with people. So Murray's been on the phone with like 5 to 10 people every single week over the last 2 months as he was going into beta around this product. And because of that, we've been able to hit this, almost $16,000 of monthly reoccurring revenue. This happens every single month because of that. Now, the holy grail for software is making $10,000 a month in reoccurring revenue. But what I want to show you is that he did not do this the first time we launched our software, Heroic. So Heroic's been around for, 4 years. And the monthly reoccurring revenue is just at a little under $4,000. He didn't make any phone calls. He's a software engineer. He does not like getting on the phone with people. And he was like, I just gotta go do all this stuff, build all this stuff on my own. And then this time around, we decided to do it a little bit differently. Even though it was software, we decided to start at Call Me. Because of that, within 60 days, we're at almost 16,000. Can you see the difference? 5 years on the one hand, and we're at 4,000, and 60 days, and we're at 16,000 simply by following these stages of business growth. And granted, Experiencify is 5 times more expensive than Heroic, so Heroic still has more customers. But that's the difference, is the very first time 5 years ago is we tried to skip this and go straight to list build. Because it's software, and software is naturally a list build model. But we didn't have the intel about our clients, so we made hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of mistakes. This is why this stuff matters. Can you see that? Yes. Like, this is night and day difference. Can you see that? Wow. Yeah. This is why this stuff matters. So your focus in a Call Me business is to get more qualified prospects in direct conversation with you, to gain vital insight on how you can deliver consistent value in a way that nobody else can. You cannot guess. You can't do this at home alone in your computer. You really need to talk to real people who are going to give you real money for what you do. Is this making sense? When Murray was on those calls, one of the things that we learned is that people were expecting to pay about $100 a month for this. Originally, we didn't know that. We thought maybe we needed a cheaper option and all of these things, then we realized we don't need a cheaper option. And that instantly doubled our monthly reoccurring revenue. Does that make sense? So that's something that we could only learn by being in conversation with people. So those kinds of insights don't come alone at your computer. You cannot guess them. And you want to be turning those clients into customers and then investing in building assets like a Call Me website and creating marketing, because a Call Me website's actually optimized to get your phone ringing off the hook. It's not the same as a list build website or an authority website. Your website actually needs to match your business model or the way you get new customers. Is this making sense? So who is in the Call Me stage? Raise your hand if you're in the Call Me stage. Fantastic. Raise them high. Love it. This is a super exciting stage to be in. And you've also got to be careful because there are some mistakes that people tend to make at this stage. One of them is assuming you know what people want and creating offers before really talking to your prospects. Anyone do this before? Yeah. That's how you end up with a membership site with no one in it, boxes and boxes of books in your garage that you can't sell, right? Anyone ever do that? For sure. And then trying to jump into a one-to-many business model before really mastering the enrollment skills and fine-tuning your message, your value, your offers. And then going too broad right out of the gate rather than trying to focus on a specific and profitable niche. Okay? So how many of you in Call Me may have been clinging to a really broad niche for a little too long? Raise your hands. Raise them high. Come on. I know there's a lot of you. And it's really, really common. But when you can get specific, it's just going to be a lot easier. And the specificity is just the starting point. It's not going to limit you for the rest of your career. It's just where you're starting to get the momentum building and to hone your messaging. Make sense? It's kind of like the hot seat that I did on stage yesterday evening. We honed her niche. Did you see that? And that made a difference. So the best investment you can make at the Call Me stage is learning how to sell and market your offers. All right, you got to learn how to do this. You can't find a magic hire who's just going to do it all for you. Anyone try to do that too? The magic hire who's going to sell and market everything for you. You can get there, you can ultimately find people to support you, but you've got to understand how it all works yourself first. Make sense? Otherwise, it's like going to a mechanic with zero understanding of how your car works, and then just trusting their recommendations. Next is creating the systems that you need to follow up with new leads and sell and fulfill your offers and market yourself to new people. Now, I say systems because you want to be doing marketing and sales consistently, not just when you need clients. Make sense? And then you constantly have a steady flow of people in your business. And you want that website tuned to the Call Me business model. And you basically want to build out 2 to 3 marketing channels that you're using consistently. And the habits you want at the Call Me stage is to get out of feast and famine marketing and create a consistent weekly marketing and sales schedule. So this is a hard habit for a lot of people to form, because it means that you're marketing and you're selling on a consistent basis. And a lot of people prefer to be doing what they do and then leave the marketing to selling when it's an emergency, right? But then your business is constantly going to be in this yo-yo mode. And it's hard for you to grow from that space. It's hard for you to invest in, say, building a team if you're in yo-yo. Does that make sense? But when you've got that consistency, you know what to expect, and you can make all those investments. Now, in terms of the ecosystem, is you want to create the systems that you need to run your business like a well-oiled machine. So it becomes easier to market, easier to sell, easier to deliver what you do. And then you can start to scale. Is that making sense? For leadership, you want to be comfortable being visible and being vulnerable in your business so you can truly embrace what makes you different without judgment and without shame. This is where you practice that full visibility, because as you scale your marketing and you're reaching more people, you're actually, sharing yourself with more and more people. And for support, you want to invest in mentorship to support you through the stage, and also personal support, like a housekeeper, a babysitter, a personal assistant. So often people think they can't afford these things, but if you're spending all your time on $15 an hour tasks, at what point are you going to get to the higher value tasks? Make sense? So what if you paid someone, $15 an hour, say for 10 hours a week, $150, and in those 10 hours you just got back, you built your business. You have to take that leap of faith to invest before you know the money is there, but then that gives you the time and space to create the income. Make sense? So you know it's time to move on to the next stage when you've maxed out your time, you've filled your business, you've raised your prices, you've got a waiting list, and that usually happens around the $250,000 mark, is when Call Me a lot of times will complete itself. And the thing to understand is whether you want to progress into just pure late Call Me, because late Call Me can start as early as 60,000, or whether you want to go all the way into list build. So a lot of times you can start offering smaller group, one to few programs that maintain the intimacy and customization of Call Me before progressing into truly scalable offers in list build and in authority. Now, late Call Me revenue can stretch to $1 million or more without fully creating these one-to-many offers. I know a lot of people who are just in the Call Me business model, and that's the ultimate home for their business. They don't feel like they need to go into list build and go into authority. Because a lot of people prefer the intimacy of the late Call Me model, and they choose to grow through ultra premium offers. So there's two ways to grow your business. One is getting more clients. Another way is to increase your prices. So Jesse over there has done that too. He now has prices in the $25,000 arena, 15 to 20,000, yeah. And because of that, he's grown his business. He's going to cross the $1 million mark this year, right? Yeah. But before, he used to be selling $500 training programs, and he stopped doing that. And he's really focusing on these premium services because he realized that he loves to work with people for longer cycles in a deeper way. So you've got to realize that about yourself. And also, the list build requires a whole lot more technology, right, to get right. And some people don't like that model. And other people prefer the leverage of list build. So who's an early Call Me? You're really working one-on-one. Raise your hands high if you're early Call Me. Great. Now, what about late Call Me? You're working with groups, you're more scalable? Excellent. Okay, so a couple important things to consider as you're considering transition and considering whether you ultimately want to build a list build business or you want to stay in Call Me is whether you're genuinely content to work with clients one-on-one or in small groups, or whether you long for that greater impact and that greater scale. And the other thing to consider is you may long for that greater impact and scale, but are you willing to learn the tools, the strategies, and the technologies that you need to scale your business and reach more people? Because I can tell you it's more complex. And if you don't want to go into that complexity, you have to ask yourself how much you really want it. Does that make sense? And if you wanted enough to learn it, amazing. And if you naturally like that kind of stuff, amazing. Or do you prefer to keep things simple and run just a more intimate business? And we talked about Jesse there. Yeah, that's his hunk shot. All right, can I tell this story, Jesse? We do this kind of like aligned action schedule in mentorship pretty early on, where you structure your days and figure out how you're going to spend your time, and you create the categories of spending time. And Jesse had one column, which was chicks. I was like, I know, I was like, but he's like, you said to put everything that was important to you in the calendar, and I want to start dating and everything else. But it was great. Eligible bachelor over there, ladies. As his mentor, I want to help him out with all the things that he wants to get. All right. All right, the next stage, when you progress, is the list build stage. And the list build stage usually starts at around $250,000. A lot of people start it early. You can start it earlier, around 100,000. I push it back later to just kind of prove a point. You can start list build a little bit earlier. But genuinely, when you're around $250,000, you really start to need to leverage other tools. So most business trainers teach the list build stage exclusively, because it's the stage they're currently at, or the stage where they started making big money. And that's why there's so many people think they need to be running list build businesses. But like I said, this stage typically starts at around the $250,000 mark, or when you're feeling maxed out in your current model, and you want to add more revenue streams and start serving more people. All right? And list build is all about creating leveraged income through one-to-many offers. And list build model is really good for people who make their money through online trainings, home study programs, info products, experience products, group coaching programs, software, apps, physical products with a high potential for subscriptions or repeat sales. But like I showed you with Experiencify, even if you're in this category, you still want to pass through some forms of call me marketing at least. Even if your core product business model is list build, you want to at least pass through some forms of call me marketing so you're really making sure you're optimizing for what people want. Is this making sense? Okay. So you get new clients in list build, and the reason it's called list build by building your email list. And this stage does require more systems, more teams, more marketing, more resources, and you're going from serving dozens of clients to hundreds or even thousands at this stage. So the things that you're investing in here is the technology, the websites, the fulfillment systems, paid ads and marketing, mentoring and guidance to make sure that you're using these tools effectively rather than letting the tools use you. How many of you ever feel like the tools and the technology are using you? Yeah. It's super duper common, and of course, building your team. So here's the thing. I learned these stages of business growth by mistake. When I first got started in 2011, the only models that were being taught were the list build and authority models, and as a good student, I implemented everything perfectly. And so this was my first business, Be Seen Boldly, and yes, I did design that myself. Right? And I literally made all the mistakes. I did not talk to any prospects before I launched my site, so I didn't really know what people wanted, and I didn't even realize that I was in the wrong business, for years, right? And I didn't know how I could best serve people or how I could best make money. So all my website did was start collecting email addresses. It wasn't getting people on the phone with me, so I grew my list slowly, but I wasn't making any money. And that was really challenging because I had all this infrastructure for list build, but it wasn't doing anything for me because I hadn't dialed in the call me part of things. And I put so much work already into building the site and my website before I knew what my business was that it kind of felt like I had the sunk cost, where I was afraid to change because I already put so much effort in the wrong direction. That ever happened to anyone? Yeah. Yeah, so I was holding on to all of it. And worst of all, I quit my job without a plan. So I was very quickly running out of money and watching my bank account go, thinking okay, this has to start working sometime soon. What else can I do differently? And at that moment when I was starting to run out of money and I'd been trying for months, 6 months, unsuccessfully to build my business, I found out about a job in my old area of expertise. And because I didn't know how I was going to go about building my business, I wondered, well, maybe I should take a job. And I went and I asked everyone in my family about that. I asked my mom, my dad, my brother, my best friend, and they all told me I should go take the job. It's so funny because a lot of times the people who know you the best, the people who love you, aren't always the best at guiding you. Have you noticed that? Because they only see who you are, and they only see who you've been. My mom and my dad saw me as that child. My dad saw me as the person he'd been creating that plan for, and he only wanted me to be financially secure and successful. He didn't see all this was possible for me. And so they all told me to take the job. And because I didn't really have a specific plan for how I could grow my business, I took the job. I didn't listen to myself. I didn't listen to my own intuition. But there was one person who advised me not to take the job. And he said, Marisa, maybe the stars are aligned right now for you to build your business. And when he said that, I had that chill, that feeling of excitement and fear that happens when you know something is truth. Anyone ever feel that before? So I felt that, and I didn't listen to it because I really didn't know how I was going to get from where I was to the successful and profitable business that I really imagined. So I took the job, and I got to say that I instantly hated it. Instantly. It was working with a nonprofit, and I felt like I had all these different ideas that I would share, and every time I shared an idea, they said, well, we can't do it because of X, Y, and Z. And so I didn't feel like I could be successful and effective in that job, so I started going through the motions, right? Just showing up every single day. But there was a silver lining, and there's always a silver lining if you look for it. That job gave me the income to really build my business the right way. It gave me the stability to be building my business on the side where I worked that particular job. So while I had that steady paycheck, I mean, it was only $58,000 a year, but it was a steady paycheck, I invested almost everything that I was making into learning and getting mentorship from a lot of the top trainers. I learned from Brendan Burchard and, a lot of different people, Jeff Walker. I took all these different programs, and I even invested $20,000 in a mastermind with Brendan Burchard, right? And that year, just going to all of his events, and I found all of my customers in the audience of that particular community. And I just learned so much, and I even met Murray, in the front row of one of his events. And it's not a surprise that the moment I started going for my dreams that I met the love of my life. Because a lot of times when you start to become the person that you've always wanted to be, you attract the person that you've always wanted to be with. So that first year while I was working my job, I put in place the core foundation of my Call Me business. And by the end of that year, I was able to leave my job, and I tripled my income to $178,000. And 1 year later, I tripled it again to $450,000 and went from Call Me to the list build stage. A year later, we doubled at almost $800,000. And then a year later, we were at 1.5 million. A year later at 2.1. A year later at 3.1. A year later at 4.1. I keep going to the point ones for some reason, right? And, the last couple years, we've been a bit over $4 million. So we progressed about one stage of business growth a year. And if you had told me, 8 years ago when I started, that I would have this multi-million-dollar business serving tens of thousands of people around the world, I never would have believed you. And I probably would have still pinched myself sometimes, because you could say that I learned the stages of business growth the hard way. And I certainly was not an instant overnight success, but I just focused once I went back and got a job and did what I needed to do. And who'd be willing to do the work and take the steps if you knew you could progress about one stage of business growth a year? Raise your hand. Yeah. And then collectively, Bill Gates famously says that most people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 10. But if you do that year after year after year, can you imagine where you'll be 10 years from now? Can you even imagine? You'll be unrecognizable to yourself. So who's in the list build stage right now? Raise your hand if you're in the list build stage of business growth. Yeah, we have a handful of people. Well, the big mistakes of list build is jumping into list build too soon before building the foundation of value and consistent revenue. And if you're not here yet, pay attention, because you're deciding if you want to go into list build. Next is assuming you'll automatically make money while you sleep if you got products. It's one thing to have a product, it's another thing entirely to sell a product. Would you agree? So simply creating more products is not going to make you more money. You've got to focus on the marketing machine. And so many people focus on building way too many products rather than focusing on that one blockbuster hit product that will redefine your entire business. So sometimes simplifying will actually grow your business more than expansion. Does that make sense? And the other thing many people do is try to do everything themselves, right, without hiring support, because there's a lot more complexity in this business model. So the secret to list build is focus and scale. You really want to focus on just one scalable blockbuster hit offer and 2 to 3 marketing channels that you can reliably use to launch that offer and fill that offer. If you have that, you can start to expand into a lot more offers. But you want to focus on at least one really core offer that has the potential to be that blockbuster hit. Make sense? Because that will revolutionize your business more than anything else. Now, the question I often ask my students is, what would happen right now if I just waved my magic wand over this audience and all of a sudden you got 100 new customers? Would you be able to serve them really well right now? Raise your hand if you could serve them really, really well right now. A few of you. Now, what about 1,000 customers? Who could serve 1,000 customers really, really well right now? A few of you. So here's the thing. You all want 100 customers. But you've got to actually build the systems and processes to be able to deliver to 100 customers first, and then the marketing machine and sales machines to be able to get those 100 customers. So the list build mindset's first. The habit is self-care, believe it or not. At this stage, you've got to slow down to speed up and to receive from your work as the complexity expands. And for the ecosystem, this is where you really are getting your online ecosystem in place. Not just your home environment, but you're really getting the whole social media presence dialed in and your websites and all of that together. The leadership is to get comfortable serving thousands of people and making a massive impact, which is also learning how to take failures and mistakes in stride, whether it's coming from yourself, your team, or your customers. Because when you have that bigger impact, there's going to be some bigger problems. Make sense? So we need to build that resilience we've been talking about. And for support, you want to grow your team, delegate, and allow your team to take more and more off your plate. And you know it's time to move on to the next stage, to the authority stage. When you have one or more successful products, you've got the happy customers, the marketing that works, and you've still hit another growth plateau. And that usually happens around the $1 million mark. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking that what got you here will get you there. So you still have to change again. And usually what's happening here is that everything is revolving around you. Make sense? And so you feel like you can't do anything but be in your business, and you want to have your life back. So that's when you hit the authority stage. It's usually at the $1 million mark and goes to about the $5 million mark. And this stage is very common for authors, speakers, trainers, media personalities, and thought leaders. Yet a lot of authors and speakers try to start there. But the problem is that it's hard to make a really good living just selling books and low-ticket products. So you need to have your back-end, high-profile, premium products first before you can really make this model work for you. Make sense? So people who make the majority of their income selling books, products, or ideas, and getting paid to speak, and oftentimes you still do high-ticket consulting at this stage. You need something that's going to really make you a lot of money. And you're making around $1 million a year. And I was super excited for my student Isabel Morton when she crossed this mark last year, and she had her first multi-six-figure launch that pushed her into the $1 million mark, and she went from being list build to being authority. So at this stage, you get new clients through creating new marketing channels and expanding your product lines while growing and nurturing your tribe and your reputation. So this is where you start to create a lot of low-ticket products. Okay, give me all these like $7 products and $17 products and $50 products and things like that. This is where it actually makes sense to do that. And let me be on Instagram, and let me be on TikTok, and let me be in LinkedIn, and let me be everywhere. Does that make sense? But it usually doesn't make sense before this stage, because you're doing so much effort to get, very little traffic and reward, okay? And this is where you appear to be everywhere. You're the it guy and girl, and people are talking about you. And you're starting to get invitations to speak on major stages. I'm going to be on traffic and conversion stage in a few weeks. Do interviews, join the top masterminds with your peers. This is where it all starts to happen for you. And because it's so exciting, it's super tempting for people to start here and start trying to use authority marketing strategies and authority kind of product creation strategies and tactics before you're ready. Has anyone here done that? Try to use authority stuff before you're ready? Super common. Anyone being like, nope, this explains it? Anyone? Yeah. So this is what was going on for my mentorship student, Patricia Misakian, and she's done 2 years of mentorship with us. When she came in, she was making $96,000 a year, and she had 9 products. So she was launching every single month a different product, and that was exhausting. Can you imagine that, launching every month a different product? And she was still only making $96,000. And I was like, whoa, Patricia, slow down. Can you show me how much each of these products is making and all the different numbers? And I looked at them all and I said, this product is performing way better than all of the rest. Why don't you stop marketing these other 8 products and only market this one? So focus on building a really robust marketing campaign around this product. The very next month, January, she made $50,000. So she made half of what she made the entire previous year by simplifying what she was doing. Now she's just retired her husband. Yeah? And now he gets to start his Etsy business, and they bought a Tesla and they let it drive them around California one day a week. So she's stoked, and she's not launching 9 products a year anymore, right? So at the authority stage, like I said, a lot of business trainers teach authority tactics, which is why so many people jump here too soon. And as a result, many emerging entrepreneurs, they try to jump to the stage before they've got clarity on their offer, their value, their tribes, before they have the product lines to even merit those kinds of marketing strategies. Make sense? And that results in having several underperforming or disconnected products and not being known for everything, not really having the customer journey, the message to money pathway that I'm going to be teaching you this afternoon that integrates all of your products. That way people will continue to work with you over and over again versus having all these one-off offers. And authority requires a very sophisticated technology platform, assets, team, and a proven back-end funnel. And like I said, authors and speakers in particular tend to try to skip right into authority, and they don't have all of these offers in the back end that are more premium priced to really support their business models. So how many authors and speakers in the room who've been like a broke author or speaker? Raise your hand. Yeah, it's because this is probably what you've been doing. Does that make sense? And it happens very, very commonly. So those are the 4 stages of business growth. And like I said, it's possible to progress about 1 stage of business growth per year. But if you do that consistently year after year after year, can you see that where you'll be in a few years is just like unrecognizable? Versus trying to skip to that authority list build state right away and then struggling the whole time. Can you see that by slowing down, you can actually speed up significantly? Because I really was not that instant overnight success. I really wasn't. And I want you to see that. I just slowed down and did the next step at the right time. And that's what I want to help you do and why I'm so passionate about teaching this model. So who's at the authority stage? Yeah, yes? That's right. I am at the authority stage. For sure. Well, at this stage, the exciting thing is that you are no longer carrying your message alone. And that feels so good because who started to realize that your message is so much bigger than you are? Yeah. And to have this whole team to support it, it's kind of incredible, and I'm so grateful. Let's give a huge shout out to the team there at the back tables. Yeah. Haven't they been incredible? They've just been amazing, haven't they? And I'm just so grateful. I think it's one of the amazing things about growth is being able to have a team like that. So let me ask you, who can imagine holding an event like this one? Raise your hand if you can imagine holding an event like this one. Yeah. And maybe even being on this particular stage, like many of my students. Yes. Can you picture yourself doing this? Yes. Now, who would prefer to serve in other ways? Like, this would freak my husband out. He does not want to be up here. Raise your hand high if you want to serve in other ways. Yeah. Just imagine however it is that you want to serve, because if this is not your wealth dynamics, you don't have any star in you whatsoever, it might be hard for you to sustain being on stages like this for a long period of time. So what I want you to do right now is to imagine one person that you've helped. One person that you've helped. Whether you've helped them for free or whether they paid you money to help. And imagine all the people that they've helped or supported in some way, shape, or form because they stepped into the transformation that you offer them. Really close your eyes and imagine that person. Now imagine if that person, that one person, became 100 people. 1,000 people. 10,000 people. Imagine the ripple effect of all those people because you stepped forward for your message. And imagine the ripple effect of every person in this room today stepping forward to live their message. What's possible when each of us steps up and steps forward and steps out to live the message that we're here to live, to bring our message to the world? That's why these stages of business growth are so important and so powerful. Because with each stage you progress, doing the right thing at the right time, you 10x your income and, most importantly, your impact. So, quick exercise here before we end. First, I want you to identify the stage of business growth that you're currently at. The stage that you're currently at, and this is on page 21. And then I want you to identify the stage you'd like to reach 12 months from now. What's the stage you'd like to reach 12 months from now? And identify the stage that you'd ultimately like to grow into. The stage you'd ultimately like to grow into. You should have a sense of those 3 things by now. In the next exercise, all right, in the next exercise, because that should only take a moment, really. The next exercise, and we're not going to have time to do it here in the room, but I recommend you actually do it during the break before our next session, is to read the milestones and mindsets for your specific stage of business growth and take a moment to answer these 3 questions, which are, what are your top 3 business goals for the next 12 months? Your top 3 business goals for the next 12 months, and how would your life change if you actually achieve them? Now, the reason why this question is important is because this is what I call the future self vision, and it's a core part of our experience escalation framework. When you actually can visualize yourself achieving a result, and you know what you gain from achieving the result, you're actually 80% more likely to follow through and take those actions. So it's not enough to just say what your goals are. You want to visualize what your life is going to become and how you'll change when you achieve those goals. The other things I'd love you to do is figure out what are the 3 biggest challenges that are holding you back from achieving these goals now. Because like Tony Robbins said, it's super important to anticipate the challenges and obstacles so you're not blindsided by them. You can never eliminate challenges and obstacles, but anticipate them so nothing takes you off your game once you decide to live your message and go for it. Make sense? Excellent. So please do this particular exercise in the breaks, okay? So we've done a couple things here in the session, which is identify your stage of business growth. And over the break, you're going to define the specific actions and mindsets that you want to work on. Just really look through that sheet of paper and tick some off and really decide which ones that you really want to focus on. Now, in the next session, this is where we get to break you out into 2 different rooms and help you define an offer with the potential to add $50,000 to your revenue this year and make a massive impact. So who wants to do that? That's kind of like a woo. Who wants to add $50,000 to your revenue this year? All right, now that's what we're talking about. Now that offer is different for you if you're in Blue Sky or if you're in a Call Me, List Builder, Authority stage. Can you see that now? So what we're actually going to do is we're going to be breaking the rooms up for the next session. So what we did is we left stickers on your chair at the break. You all have those stickers, the 3-star stickers? So if you figured out that you're in the Blue Sky stage of business growth, I want you to take the blue star sticker and I want you to stick it on your badge, okay? So take the blue star sticker and stick it on your badge. Now, if you're in the Call Me stage of business growth, you're making a minimum of $2,500 a month, and up to, about $20,000 a month, I want you to take the orange star sticker and I want you to put the orange star sticker on your badge. Now, if you're in the List Build or the Authority stage of business growth, making a minimum of $250,000 a month, I want you to take the purple sticker, and I want you to put the purple sticker on your badge. So, Blue Sky sticker, making less than $2,500 a month, the blue star, Call Me sticker, making, over $2,500 a month, up to $20,000, orange sticker, and the purple sticker, if you're making a minimum of $20,000 a month and you're in List Build or Authority, okay? So, what's that? Quick question. Yeah? Should you use the revenue to determine your campaign? Yeah, okay. Revenue. We're talking about revenue, okay? So, what we're going to do is if you have a blue star sticker, you're going to stay in this room for the next session. And our Blue Sky coaches are actually going to be facilitating this next session and helping you choose a $50,000 offer that's appropriate to your stage of business growth. Now, if you've got a Call Me, List Builder, Authority business, you've got that orange sticker or that purple sticker, we're actually going to move you to another room, the Century Pre-Function area, which is where the Entrepreneur and the Wild Party was last night. We're going to be doing the session there, and our next level coaches are going to be facilitating that particular session to help you define a kind of offer that's really appropriate to your stage of business growth. And then when we come back from lunch, I'm going to show you part 2 of the Money Master Key. That's part 1, the next session. And part 2, I'm going to show you how to situate that $50,000 offer in the overall context of your business as a whole and all the other offers you might be currently making or you will make in the future. How does that sound? Great. Sound like a good day? Yeah. So can you see how by the end of the day today, you're going to have so much clarity on the actions you're taking, how you're going to make money now and in the future, yes? How many of you feel more clear and maybe even a little relieved after this session than you did coming in? Raise your hand high. Yeah, absolutely. That was the goal of the session. And Devon's got a couple of exercises. And by the way, after lunch is when I deliver on the promise of the event where you leave with your entire business on one sheet of paper. Yeah.